Our tenancy laws are changing to give renters more rights.
Everyone should be able to live a life of dignity, whether they rent or own a home.
But are these changes having the opposite effect?
2 weeks prior to the legislation changing, I received a 90-day notice, along with quite a few other local families.
In the small eastern Bay of Plenty town of Ōpōtiki, the rental market is shrinking.
There's lots and lots of people wanting to come and live in Opotiki, so those rental properties are disappearing.
With more whānau being left homeless.
How long can the community cope if things keep going on like this?
They're not coping now.
As locals losing their homes stand up to tackle the crippling housing crisis.
I feel we need to make a stand because it's cutting our throats. We're the heart and soul of Ōpōtiki. Where are we going to go?
Kaylene Moore's 3-bedroom home in Opotiki bears the marks of a decade and a half worth of life.
I've been paying rent here for 15 years, you know. It has a lot of memories.
Any that stand out when you look around the room? Or...
Yeah, going into labour with my third child, Maria. It was hard and fast. I made it just to Ōpōtiki and had her.
Memories that are both precious and painful for the mother of 4.
So I lost my older brother about 3 years ago through suicide, and he used to always come and stay here with me. So there's a room that's very, you know, full of memories. It's just raising my babies, going through life's ups and downs. But my home is full of love, full of noisy children.
But Kaylene only has a few weeks left in this home after she received a 90-day eviction notice in January.
First and foremost, I was shocked, then I was emotional and I was angry. I just couldn't believe what I was looking at. And then the thought of packing up 15 years of memories and furniture, it's a lot to deal with.
Do you feel like you've been a bad tenant?
No, I don't. I've had times where I've had delays in paying rent. But no, I am a good tenant. I've looked after this home.
Last year, the government passed the Residential Tenancy Amendment Act, the biggest change to tenancy laws in the last 35 years. The changes will enforce healthy home standards, allow tenants to make small changes to their rentals and bring an end to 90-day no-cause terminations.
I am so incredibly proud of all of those that have invested their time into ensuring that our friends that are dependent on landlords are going to get those houses up to a bloomin' good nick.
But there are also fears the new laws may erode the rights of landlords.
Those who are landlords know that those antisocial behaviours are incredibly destructive, and the idea that there should be 3 warnings over 90 days before one goes to a tenancy tribunal is completely unacceptable.
But Kaylene Moore is seeing the negative side to this law change. She's been evicted along with a number of other local families.
Did it come as a surprise to you to receive that notice?
A huge surprise. They gave me no reason, and I have been looking since I was given that notice. What I've come across is smaller homes for higher weekly rent.
Kiri Dutton knows the struggle to find a suitable home after she received her 90-day notice late last year.
Kia ora, Kiri.
Oh, kia ora. Come in.
So this has been your home for a couple months now?
About a month.
She ended up camping on the beach and couch surfing, but now lives in Opotiki in a house bus that a friend is lending her.
Yes, it's a lot different. You kind of do get a little bit fed up with living in a house bus, but it's all that we have right now. So this is how I make our cup of teas on the barbecue. So we do fried rice, fried chips, so everything's cooked here. So this is like my outside kitchen. Come and have a seat.
With only a handful of rental homes on the market, Kiri struggled to find support.
First, I went to every organisation in town and to no avail. I had no help whatsoever. So I put a notice on the community notices. Now, I had to eat humble pie when I did that because I'm a pretty proud person. I don't really want everyone knowing that I'm homeless, but it was the community who helped me.
An Ōpōtiki resident led her Pāho house bus on her land, where her 2 sons currently live with her.
Yeah, it's not how I envision my family to be. I've lived in Opotiki for about 25 years, and I've always had a home. I've had beautiful homes. You know, I've always looked after them, paid my rent, and treated them like my own home.
Her youngest son sleeps in the bus with her, while her oldest son, who was sleeping in a tent, now sleeps in a minivan.
These are the summer months. Are you concerned about what issues are going to arise if you're still in the house bus come the winter time?
I have noticed we've had a few cold nights, and it's cold. You know, you need to get the extra blankets out or the hottie out. When it's raining, it's miserable.
The squeeze on rentals in Opotiki isn't going unnoticed by property managers Chris and Joanne Donkin. They own CJ Rentals, one of the biggest rental management companies in town.
We manage approximately 140 properties, and we do own multiple properties ourselves.
The rental market here in Ōpōtiki, what has that traditionally been like?
Difficult. There's been a big change. The supply-demand now favours the landlords, whereas previous years, and that's probably 2 years ago, it favoured the tenants.
Ōpōtiki was always considered very cheap, and unfortunately we were sort of lined up with the likes of Wairoa and Kayrau and Hastings, Flaxmere areas. So cheap accommodation, cheap to buy and cheap to rent.
A lot of people might look at people who buy a lot of homes in lower socio-economic areas and go, is that akin to being a slumlord? You know, what's your response to people who might fire that argument your way?
So my take on that is the simple fact that it's generally a mum and dad investor that are just trying to get a little bit ahead in life.
And I think most landlords have always been committed to bringing the quality of their property up, especially if they have bought something that isn't up to standard. As property managers, we've always pushed for that. We started insulating properties years before it even became fashionable.
The couple have issued 8 90-day notices in the last 3 months, and Chris Donkin understands why landlords are worried about the law changes.
I guess the concern is that having damage or a disruptive tenant in the property and the non-ability without major issues going through tenancy tribunal to remove that tenant. July 1, with the new heating and ventilation rules, there's certainly landlords that will be selling their properties prior to that law coming in. Just the sheer cost, you know, it's around $5,000 to retrofit a property.
Harcourts Ōpōtiki is another major player in the rental market, managing around 100 homes for landlords. They didn't want to appear on camera to talk about Ōpōtiki's rental crisis, but in a statement, rental manager Wendy Moore says,
many mum and dad investor landlords have had their rental properties for many years, and in some cases have had the same tenants for many years, and low rents below market rent guidelines are common. As values increase, selling becomes a more attractive option for rental property owners who do not now want to deal with the cost of compliance and upgrading their properties.
But for Kaylene Moore, this attitude from landlords isn't good enough.
They should be looking after their home like I do as a tenant in it. You would think they'd want their homes to last a distance, so keeping them compliant, keeping them warm and dry, doing the maintenance on them. Would they live in a place that is not up to standard, you know, with their own families? I don't think so.
Coming up, how the community here in Ōpōtiki is trying to find its own solution to the housing shortage.
So there's a lot of hard work ahead still, but the reward is knowing that we're going to have people in here.
Opotiki is known for its breathtaking coastline, a gateway to Te Moana Apui. Once a forgotten rural outpost, the town is undergoing an economic resurgence.
Ōpotiki's been put on the radar. The government's pumped $150 million into a town redevelopment, new library, $27 million for the mussel factory. So there's huge infrastructure going on in Opotiki, and I guess Ōpotiki's being noticed.
And this investment is driving up house prices.
There's lots and lots of people wanting to come and live in Ōpōtiki, so those rental properties are disappearing. We've lost 15 to 20 properties in the last 12 months through properties being sold and they're no longer rentals.
You know, if you look at the increase in the market in Ōpōtiki over the last couple of years, you'll see that houses have gone from 200,000 to 400,000 or 500,000, and they're selling quickly.
Mandy Smith is from the emergency housing provider Whakaata Trust. She understands why landlords are looking to sell up in a red-hot property market.
I don't know what we're going to do about that. I mean, the only way we can do it is to provide more housing stock and just try and drive the market down. But then that's going to take time.
But there's not enough time for the whānau the Trust supports.
You do know when you meet with some of these whānau just how badly they are feeling. They can't provide for their children with a roof over their head. They go in tents, tars, whatever it is that they can do to try and provide some form of shelter.
But some relief is on the way. Whakaata is putting the finishing touches on this new transitional housing complex. Currently, there's just 2 emergency houses in the whole district, but 41 families on the Trust waiting list.
That might not sound very big for bigger regions, but for Ōpōtiki, it's pretty big in number, because when you look at that by the number of people within the home, you could be looking at 170, 180 people that are displaced. Yeah.
But the Trust faced a 3-year-long battle to build these new houses. They received some government funding, but also had to take out a mortgage to fund the project.
So there's a lot of hard work ahead still, but I guess the reward is knowing that we're going to have people in here and we're going to be able to at least house some of our people. It's transitional housing, so it's only 3 months, but we can apply for an extension if we feel the family have tried really hard, but there's nowhere to go. And unfortunately, it seems like we might be just not moving anyone for a little while.
But Kiri Dutton says while transitional housing will help, it's permanent housing that is needed urgently.
I know that there's places that try their best, but, you know, if you've got to stay in the house for 3 months, then you're in the same situation after 3 months and say there's another family moving in, you know, you're in the same predicament.
For Kaylene Moore, knowing the level of need in her community is devastating, and she feels landlords are only interested in cashing in.
They're fine. They're lining their pockets and they don't really, I feel they don't give a damn about us smaller people, little people.
So she's taking her fight to the streets.
We stand as one, homes for all.
Alongside Kiri, she's marching through downtown Opotiki,
Everyone deserves a home.
bringing awareness to the rental crisis and homelessness.
Having a voice for the community and getting our message out there is what our march represents, and it's letting our locals know we have a crisis. We have a huge problem right now in Ōpōtiki.
So I'm proud of my friend for organising that. You know, it's for the people who are homeless and the eviction notices. I know this is nationwide, all over New Zealand, but it's very much so here in this town.
Property managers Chris and Joanne Donkin don't believe landlords are adding to the problem.
We consider what we do personally as a service to the community. We're in the process of building 3 new rental houses at the moment. 1 is nearly completed. So we don't see ourselves as a problem, we see ourselves as offering a service.
But it's a service Kaylene can't afford, and she says she'll likely have to move in with her parents, but doesn't want to be a burden on them.
What do you want people to know about what you are going through?
How hard it is for me as a solo mum, not being able to provide a roof over my children's head. I hope it doesn't off-rail my children, have an effect on them, because they've called this place their home for 15 years since they were born. And just the thought of Not being able to provide for my kids, I feel like a failure as a parent. I do worry about their future because this is what I'm going through now. How's it going to be for them in 10, 15, 20 years?
You want them to have a future, a brighter future.
Yeah, I do.
And if you were to find a home and have that security again, how would that make you feel?
It brings a smile to my face straight away.